Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And today I'm going to be doing my final 2020 presidential election. I'm going to be breaking down every single key state and I'm going to explain why the states are going to go in the directions that I expect them to go in. And first, I would like to take a look at the predicted map here. Just a quick notice that all of the Sun Belt states are now favoring Donald Trump and predicted Arizona, Texas, Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina all going to Trump. That 260 firewall is standing up just fine so far in the betting markets, and I'm going to talk about the final prediction here in a minute. But first, I have to tell you guys about my friends over at My Patriot Supply. Friends, we're fast approaching what many to believe to be the true second wave of COVID-19, and this may be even worse than the first. On top of that, our nation's political uncertainty and civil unrest will impact every area of your life. Are you ready? Another round of quarantines and shortages may be on the way, and those who know what's coming are using today to prepare for the worst. That's why I strongly recommend My Patriot Supply, the only source I personally use and trust for my emergency food preparedness plan, and you can too. Right now, save $100 off a full 4-week supply of nutritious meals that supply 2,000 calories a day to save your life when panic or disaster hits and food disappears again from your local grocery store. Saving $100 is impossible to pass up, especially now, so go to preparewithredeagle.com and get ready now. That's preparewithredeagle.com. There is no time to lose. Do it now. So here we go. The ultimate 2020 presidential election prediction on this channel, Red Eagle Politics. I've been doing this for roughly about a year now, and this is going to be the final prediction that I'm going to be doing for the presidential election here. Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. So we are going to be filling this out. I have a lot of data to use and incorporate here as well. It is the final prediction of the 2020 presidential election. I have already filled out all of the safe states for Republicans and Democrats. Republicans are hoping they can make Virginia within 10. Democrats are hoping that they could make a state like Missouri or Montana within 10. Right now, I don't see it. It is possible that one of these states that is safe could be under 10% or so, but right now I'm going to be leaving these in the safe column. It is not really conceivable that any of these states have a chance at flipping on the map right now. So 196 for the Democrats we start off, and 125 for Donald Trump. So we're going to start with the states that are expected to go to the Democrats by a likely margin. New Mexico is one of them. I think with Trump improving among Hispanics, Trump can improve a little bit in the state of New Mexico, but I'm not really sure that it's going to be enough to really make a massive dent. Obviously, there are a lot of question marks with the Gary Johnson vote in 2016, so it could be closer than expected for all we know. That's why I'm going to be putting it in the likely Democrat column. The state of Colorado, I am moving this from safe Democrat to likely Democrat. We do have some early vote numbers out of Colorado that look a little bit better for the Republicans than the original margins. I don't expect the Republicans to have a shot in Colorado, but they are only down 5% in registered party right now, which is not a big dip from last cycle. Also, by modeled party, they are only down by 5 points. That would get it to be within a lean margin. But again, modeled party is not perfect. I expect Biden to win the state by just under 10%. The other state that I do believe will go in the likely Democrat column is Maine at large. Donald Trump in 2016 improved vastly in Maine at large, but I do expect a little pendulum swing back into the Democrat column. But at the same time, the polls in Maine have been historically terrible for the past several cycles. But we really don't know how Maine is going to vote at the end of the day. So for right now, I'm going to leave it in the likely Democrat column here. So now we are going to move on to the states that I expect to go Republican in the likely column. And speaking of Maine, there's no better place to start than Maine's 2nd District. The polls right now have it as lean D or tilt D, although there was a poll out of the Bangor Daily News that has Donald Trump up in Maine's 2nd District by 8%. It makes sense that Trump would do well there. He won by 10 to 11 points when the polls had it at an essential tie. I expect him to win by a likely margin this time around. Again, it could be a little bit closer because of ranked choice voting, but I do believe that he will win Maine 2nd by a wide enough margin, so it really won't matter what happens in the ranked choice voting. So now we move on to the states of Ohio and Iowa. The state of Iowa, the gold standard poll out of Iowa was released this weekend from Selzer, and it showed Donald Trump up by 7%. This is something that is in line with other polls that have nailed Iowa in the past, like the Barris poll where they had Donald Trump up by 10. I expect Trump to win Iowa by a likely margin. Very white state, very rural state. That is his demographic there in Iowa. It could swing a little bit away from him because it is a very, very elastic state, but I do expect Donald Trump nevertheless to hold Iowa by a decent margin. As for Ohio, very similar development in Ohio. Not a lot has changed since 2016. Currently, the polls in Ohio have Donald Trump up by 1 to 2%. However, at the same time, polls in 2016 in the state of Ohio had Donald Trump up by just 2%, and he won the state by 8.5 points. You're seeing a very similar effect happen this cycle because you saw it in the midterms. There was not a single poll that had Mike DeWine in the lead, and he ended up winning by around 4% in Ohio. Very similar situation happening in Iowa, where even the Gold Standard poll underestimated the Republican candidate. So the polls missed in Ohio and Iowa in 2014, 2016, and 2018 for the most part, and all metrics are showing Donald Trump overperforming them significantly in both states. Yet again, I'm going to put both of them in the likely Republican column. So now we can move on to the lean Democrat states here, and there is no better place to start than the state of New Hampshire. Again, New Hampshire wouldn't surprise me if out of nowhere it went to Donald Trump, but at the same time, the polls there look completely abysmal for him. We do have to take that into consideration a little bit, but there are signs of hope for Republicans in New Hampshire. Trump only lost the state by 3,000 votes. There were many third-party voters in New Hampshire. We really don't know which way those voters are going. We've seen a lot of conflicting polling based around that. And a lot of what has been driving the vote in New Hampshire have been the universities. A lot of them are either scaled back or closed down this cycle. So it wouldn't surprise me if Donald Trump ended up winning the state of New Hampshire at the end of the day. We're going to get results here in a couple of hours from, I think, 2 or 3 towns because they do their traditional midnight voting. So it's going to be interesting to see how it looks. But for right now, I'm going to be putting New Hampshire into the lean Democrat column. As for the state of Minnesota, this is a state where Donald Trump definitely has a shot in. If we want to look at the state of Minnesota, last time Donald Trump lost the state by just 1.5%. But at the same time, he left a lot off the table in a lot of these rural areas. I think that you could see a swing to him in the rural areas potentially as well in the Iron Range. However, Democrats do have room to grow in the suburbs, which have been trending away from Donald Trump, according to many metrics. But at the same time, there have been riots, there has been civil unrest in the Minneapolis area. So it's definitely a wild card. It's definitely a sleeper flip. But right now, because a lot of the population is concentrated in suburban Minneapolis, I am going to be putting Minnesota as lean D, although a Trump win in Minnesota really would not surprise me. So now it's important that we move on to the lean Republican states, and there are 4 of them, all of them here in the Sun Belt, the state of North Carolina. It's important to talk about this state. First of all, Republicans almost always have been outperforming the polls in North Carolina. Currently, the RCP average actually has Donald Trump up in North Carolina, which is huge because last time he was up a little bit and he outperformed vastly. We could be seeing a very similar trend here. But also looking at the early vote data out of the state of North Carolina, looking at the party makeup based off of registered voters, Republicans are 30% of registered voters, Democrats are 35%. Right now, in the early vote, which is expected to skew Democrat a little bit, Republicans are actually 32%, Democrats are 38%. There are a lot of unaffiliateds, but expect the election day turnout to be more Republican, if not by like a 2-to-1 margin. Also, black turnout, not really that high, down at 19.4%. That's in the early vote. Last time in the exit polling, it was in the low 20s. Registered voters, it is 21%. Right now, it is coming in at 19%. And the election day electorate is expected to skew Republican, so it is expected to skew to be a little bit more white compared to the votes that have been cast so far. And the fact that Trump is up in the average and the fact that Trump is doing well in the rural areas, you look at the rural trends in North Carolina in 2016, the trends were very visible in a lot of the rural areas, and they were also backed up with the 2019 special election in the 3rd district here, where the Republican actually ended up outperforming Donald Trump. That was a very, very good sign for Republicans, and everywhere you could see the red arrows in the rural part of the state. How did Obama win it exactly in 2008? Youth turnout and black turnout doesn't seem to be up very high this election cycle. We'll have to see, but right now I do have it as lean Republican. Trump will win it by maybe a little bit of a narrower margin than last time around, but I do expect him to win the state nonetheless. So now we're going to move down to the state of Georgia. Georgia is a state a lot of Democrats actually expect that they could flip, and it could be closer than we're expecting here because there are a lot of new voters. It is changing very rapidly, especially in the Atlanta area, but there are signs of hope for Republicans. They are going to hold it by a lean margin. The typical gold standard poll, which is Landmark, it nailed 2016, it nailed 2018, actually has Donald Trump up by 4%, and that actually has him at 50%, which is a very good sign if you're at 50% in a poll. All of the polls that have had Biden up, he is not at 50%. It's usually like a 47, 46 type of thing. So I do kind of get 2018 vibes from Georgia. It is going to be much closer than it was last cycle, but I do believe it will hold in the Republican column. And looking at the early vote here, Georgia does not track by party, so you really can't go off of it. Target Smart does not really do the best job, even though they try to gauge it. It does show Republicans up by a few 100,000 votes, but again, it's not perfect. You can't just go off of it to make your prediction. But North Carolina, which does register by party, if you look at the new voters, because Georgia is expected to get a lot of new voters, and the same thing holds true for Texas. If you look at the people who did not vote in 2016, if you look at it by registered party, it's not really that much of a difference. It's around 28% Republican, 34% Democrat. So I would expect it to have a 60-40 split in the Democrat column. That's not going to be enough. In Georgia, 95% of the 2016 total has been cast here, but it's just not exactly going to be enough. Just because an election is high turnout does not mean that Republicans are not going to be having any new voters either. This is what a lot of the people in the election mafia just don't seem to understand. And this applies to Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Arizona as well. There are a lot of new voters who are Republican, especially in these states, may have not voted before, but now the state's being more competitive. When it was safe in the past, Republicans have been registering a lot of new voters, especially in the state of Georgia and the state of Texas, which is also going to be lean Republican. I do believe Trump will win it by a narrower margin, but I do believe that he will win. He's also improving with Hispanic voters, according to even some of the most left-leaning bias polling. That is a very good sign for Trump in the state of Texas. It could save him against the suburban trends that are expected to go in the Biden direction. But you look at a place like Houston and you see the fact that Joe Biden wants to phase out the oil and natural gas industry. Does not really sit well. The lifeblood of the Texas economy is oil. It is natural gas. 50% of the energy that is used in Texas is natural gas, which is much higher than the average nationwide. So you look at all of these metrics, it just points to the fact that Donald Trump is going to hold the state of Texas. Polling has it narrow. It's going to be by a narrower margin than 2016, but I firmly believe right now that Texas is going to stay in the lean Republican column. So now we're going to go to the state of Florida. Florida is very close, and this is a bold prediction. I was kind of debating whether I was going to put it as lean Republican or tilt Republican because I do expect Trump to win it by around 2%. And I am going to get to my final swing state margins here when I finish filling in the map. But looking at the early voting out of the state of Florida, Democrats have a 112,000 vote lead. That is much less than their original goal of over 600,000 voters. Besides, there are over 1 million to 2 million voters that have not voted yet that are expected to break 2-1 for Donald Trump. That is a very good sign. Also, compared to last time, Republicans vastly outperforming in Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach County, and much of the Panhandle, which is a very, very good sign. Republicans also improving their registration game in the state of Florida. And in 2016, Donald Trump had problems in Florida. He did improve in the Panhandle. He did improve in the I-4 corridor in some places. But even compared to Republicans in 2018, Trump struggled in places like Collier County, Lee County, and especially in Miami-Dade and Palm Beach. Donald Trump seems to be improving in Miami-Dade County in pretty much every poll, the local polls, the congressional polling. They do point to Trump improving in Miami-Dade, and the midterms really seem to back this up. Donald Trump is doing very well with Cuban voters this cycle from all of the data metrics that we've seen, and the early vote just seems to back it up. Hillary Clinton won Miami-Dade County by 30 points. Donald Trump has a shot to shave it down either the low 20s or maybe even under 20 if he is extremely lucky. We'll really just have to wait and see. But there are a lot of good signs here. If Donald Trump makes a massive improvement in the biggest county, Miami-Dade County, he can lose a little bit in Hillsborough, he can lose a little bit in Pinellas, he could lose a little bit in Duval, and still end up winning the state by a wider margin than he won it by last time in 2016. Again, Florida does love its Republican incumbents. The polling average is a dead heat. Obviously, there's a few outliers like the Quinnipiac poll that has Donald Trump down by 5 or 6 points. But again, their final poll in 2018 had Gillum up by a ridiculous margin. And guess what? He's not governor of Florida right now. So all the metrics are pointing to a Donald Trump victory in Florida. Even a lot of people in the election mafia are saying it. Democrats already pointing fingers in Florida for their massive underperformance. I'm going to be putting Florida in the lean Republican column. So here we go. We have all of the tilt states left. Donald Trump is holding on to that 248 firewall very strongly here. Democrats are holding on to 226 electoral votes. This election is going to be decided in the Midwest and Arizona, which has been my prediction for the longest time. My prediction has been Biden is going to win the popular vote by a wider margin than Hillary Clinton. That does seem to be in the works, although I do expect Trump to outperform the current polling average. But I also think the Electoral College is going to be extremely close. It is going to be a dead heat. And right now there are several states here that we do have to fill in. And I'm going to start on the East Coast. I'm going to start with the state of Pennsylvania. And they say go big or go home because they're going to hate you either way. I believe Pennsylvania is going to tilt into Donald Trump's column. And a lot of people are saying, what about the early vote? It's looking very weak for Republicans. And I have to say, well, that is true. But Trump has a certain base that will come out big on Election Day. And if you look at Pennsylvania, and if you look at it by registered party here, and you look at all the votes that have been cast so far, that's 2.4 million votes. That is only 39% of the vote that was cast in 2016. This is expected to be a high turnout election. I would assume that 65% of the votes have not actually been cast yet in the state of Pennsylvania, which is expected to break for Donald Trump by a massive margin. That is a very big hope for Donald Trump. Obviously, they say bad things happen in Philadelphia. You have to watch out for Philadelphia. We'll get there. But looking at 2016, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania because he drove up the margins in western Pennsylvania and the rural part of Pennsylvania, especially in the fracking belt, and Trump has been hammering that issue. He was in Scranton today. That's Joe Biden's home county. I do expect Biden to carry Lackawanna, maybe by a wider margin than Hillary, although I do expect Donald Trump to maintain and turn out his base in rural Pennsylvania. A lot of these people, they'll only come out and vote for Donald Trump. That's why you saw the midterms end the way they did. But a lot of people forget in 2016, turnout in Philadelphia was actually pretty high, was relatively on par from 2016. Same thing with Pittsburgh, where Hillary Clinton outperformed Obama. But at the same time, Trump did very well in a lot of these rural areas, and if they come out for him again, which I do expect them to do so, Donald Trump is going to have a very good shot. If not, he'll be favored to win the state of Pennsylvania. I have Pennsylvania right now in the tilt Republican column. The current RCP average right now, which I do believe to be the final RCP average, actually has Pennsylvania within the margin of error here. So keep that in mind. I do expect Pennsylvania to go to Donald Trump. So that leaves us with 4 states left on the map. Real quick, I think we're going to get to Nebraska second. There really hasn't been any polling out of Nebraska second to go off of, although there was that one abysmal Emerson poll that also has Donald Trump tied in Vigo County, Indiana, which he won last time by 15 points, but somehow also has Martha McSally and Mark Kelly within a dead heat. Emerson really has fallen apart. It was a very good poll in 2016, very good poll in 2018. Seems to be going off of the rails this cycle. But in Nebraska second, the Republican statewide party is in fairly good shape compared to the Democrat statewide party. Not a lot of people expect Kara Eastman to win. Donald Trump has rallied there within the past week to get his base out as well. I do expect Donald Trump to win Nebraska second very narrowly. Could go either way, but I do expect Trump to win it. Also, the individual fundraising advantage massively strong for Donald Trump in Nebraska second, which is also a very good sign in terms of keeping that district in his column. So already 269. If this is the map, he can win in the House. But we're going to fill out this map here. There's 4 states left. We're going to start off with Michigan. And this is my home state here. Donald Trump shocked the world when he won it last time. And he did it by running up the margins in the rurals. And there's a very good shot that he can win it again by running up the margins in a lot of the rural areas here. But at the same time, there are drawbacks because Washtenaw County is energized, Oakland County is energized. These counties are expected to swing more so into the Democrat column. There are a lot of question marks here. I do expect Trump to get a lot of his base out yet again, but at the same time, Oakland County is going to be trending left, and Macomb County, it's not a guarantee Trump is going to win it by 11 again. For that reason alone, I'm going to put it as tilty, although I hope that my state proves me wrong yet again. I did not predict Michigan correctly last cycle. It did end up going into the Republican column, so it's possible, but we'll have to wait and see. But there's good news out of Wisconsin, which, again, people are going to be confused because the polls out of Wisconsin have also showed Biden with a massive lead. Even some of the Republican-leaning polls like Susquehanna and Trafalgar also have had Biden with a lead. However, it is a very, very hard state to poll. 2004, the polling was abysmal. 2012, the polling was abysmal. 2016, the polling was abysmal. For much of the 2018 cycle at the governorship, the polling was abysmal. Now, Donald Trump has a unique base in the Driftless area, and Donald Trump will need them to come out for him to win. But at the same time, even if he does lose and there's a little bit of bleeding away into the Democrat column, he also has the Milwaukee area he can fall back on. With the civil unrest in Kenosha, that is a big issue that Republicans and Donald Trump can capitalize on. He's going there. I think he's there right now as I'm recording this, doing his second to last rally of the cycle in Kenosha. Racine, where Republicans even won Racine in that abysmal Supreme Court election that was held on the same day as the Democrat primary in Racine. Republicans still ended up edging out a victory in Racine County. The WOW counties here, this is where Donald Trump will probably improve, unlike many suburbs. They're the so-called middle American suburb, a long history of the Republican Party here. A lot of historically conservative voters really didn't like Trump that cycle, didn't turn out, but that doesn't mean that they're not enthused to come out for Trump. Now you did see this trend and effect in the midterms. Donald Trump only got 60% in Waukesha County. I would not be shocked to see him get up to 64% in Waukesha. He will improve in WOW, and there are a lot of people in WOW, and also potentially improve in places like Milwaukee County. He could do a little bit better. He could improve in Sheboygan. He could improve in Manitowoc. There is still a lot of room for growth for Republicans, and it's a risky pick because a lot of the data and the polling doesn't exactly back it up. But I do believe that Donald Trump is going to hold on to the state of Wisconsin based on demographics, based on rural trends, based on even the suburban trends from 2018 in the WOW counties. If you combine the Trump base with the Walker base, which is what the Republican Party is in Wisconsin, Trump will win Wisconsin again, and he will win re-election if he holds the other states on this map here, because then he would get to 270. So now we have two more states to go, the state of Arizona and the state of Nevada. Arizona and Nevada both have party registration, so we can use the early vote to determine the winner as well. And so far in Arizona, they have cast 93% of the ballots. Although there are a lot of ballots left on the table in Pinal County, which is a Republican stronghold, and Maricopa, which is a good sign because Republicans are expected to do better on the election day voting, and it's not even close. But right now, Republicans do trail the Democrats by 22,000 votes. That's very easy to make up. And if you look at it by modeled party, which again is frowned upon, you can't just predict an election off of it because it's not always perfect, but Republicans actually are in the lead in the early vote. And this does try to allocate the undecideds properly, so who knows if it's right or not. So at the end of the day, I do think Donald Trump will narrowly carry the state of Arizona. And looking at the 2016 election in Arizona, you can see that Donald Trump narrowly won Maricopa, but he also actually improved in some counties. He actually improved in Pinal. He improved in Yavapai, and McSally kind of regressed in a lot of the counties where Trump overperformed in. You saw a lot of Trump-Ducey cinema voters. I don't expect that to be the case this time. I expect them to stay with Donald Trump in a lot of these counties where he outperformed Mitt Romney in. I also expect him to maybe do a little bit better in Yuma and Pima because there are a lot of Latinos in those counties, and he is improving with Latinos. So I do expect him to win. It's going to be a very narrow victory, tilt Trump, but Trump, I do believe he will win Arizona. A lot of the polls have also tightened in Arizona. As I expected, it does seem to be coming into fruition here. So that leaves us with one state on this map, the state of Nevada. And I don't think that this state is gone for Donald Trump. He does have to keep the margin in Clark County relatively under 65,000 for Biden in order for him to have a shot at winning the state. But there are metrics that do favor Trump. We could look at the early voting in the state of Nevada here. And by modeled party, Republicans are down by just 8,000 votes. But again, it is not a perfect model. If you look at it by registered party here, you can see that Republicans are just down by 40,000 votes or so, and there will be several votes that will be cast on election day. Again, if you look at this, they have exceeded the 2016 turnout, but at the same time, it is a rapidly growing state. A lot of people moving there, a lot of Californians, and they're not exactly all liberal. That's kind of why the state is moving in the opposite direction as the state of Arizona. So it's possible Trump could pick off the state, although I do expect it to end up being a narrow Democrat win for Joe Biden in the state of Nevada. Also, keep in mind the Hispanic vote. If Trump outperforms, or if the lockdowns end up being an issue that favors Republicans a little bit more than expected in terms of the anger energy being levied at the Democrat governors like Sisolak and Roy Cooper, then maybe Nevada and Michigan would be in the Republican column. But right now, this is my final map. Here it is, 290 for Donald Trump, 248 for Joe Biden. I will be here tomorrow night. I will be doing my final election day mega stream. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss the stream when it starts. And anyways, guys, here are my final state margins. So if you guys want to take a look at these, I'll leave them up on the screen for a couple of seconds here. All right. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media, become a member, donate to the Patreon, or subscribe. Star links in description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.